Where are they?
They're probably upstairs.
They never answered the door. Oh, wait. It's Monday night.
They're on the second floor.
Hey guys, welcome back to Second Floor Sessions. Today is a special episode for me and Matt both. We've got Bobby Amburn on here, who is he was actually our school teacher. So you can imagine we probably don't know too much about him, so I'm very, very interested in figuring out exactly what he's got to say to us today and figure out about his life.
Absolutely.
So Bobby, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Hope I don't look old enough to be your teacher.
You've been saving that one since he knew he was coming on. Didn't you? Oh. Well, just tell us about Bobby. What's some things we don't know? Start out at childhood and go on. How'd you end up where you're at?
So, Mom and Dad were both Loudoun County residents growing up. Mom was from Lenore City, Dad was from Loudoun. But I was born in 1979. We lived in South Knoxville off of Chapman Highway. Mom told Dad she wasn't going to teach her children how to drive on Chapman Highway, and she wanted to go home. And so we moved to Loudoun January of 79. I was a year old.
Okay.
And so I was the youngest, older brother, older sister.
Okay. So now we're in 79. Did you move on?
We moved out into Piney.
Out in the Piney?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Yep. And we've been there. Mom and Dad have been there for, it'll be 48 years in January.
Wow. It's the best thing they've ever done.
Yeah, it sure is.
Move down
It sure
this
is.
way.
Same spot, though.
Absolutely.
Same spot.
My granddaddy
Okay.
Amburn lived
Yep.
off of Bishop Road. And then my mom's parents lived in Lenore City. So we were just right in between
Oh,
them.
you was right. Yeah.
So whatever took them up to Chapman Highway? Was that like work?
Dad's work. Dad
Okay.
was working at Benco Plastics. Then he would come home. They were living in a subdivision, and I'm going to tell this basically. I know I'm going to miss a little bit here and there, but he started building a house across the street, and so they had a 30-year note on their house in this subdivision. Dad was working at Benco Plastics. Mom did nothing other than stay at home with the kids. She was not working regularly. And so once this house was built across the street, they'd move over there, put this one up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
They sold this one, and he went over across the street again. This time, he was on a 15-year note. And he did this 2 to 3 times to where the last time he was on a 5-year note. He had this house on a 5-year note. And he took that money and came and bought 18 acres in Piney for $45,000.
Wow.
And he was able to put about 25 or 30 down on it. And this was because of what he had done for these last 4 or 5 years, working all day and then building these houses of the evening. And so I asked him, I said, why did you quit? And he said, well, as long as you own 2 houses, you don't own anything. You know, he said you could always lose everything. He said so. His goal was to make enough money to buy a piece of property, and so they moved down here, and then Mom went to work when I was in kindergarten, and for as long as we're going to talk tonight about any stories, any avenues that we go, you're going to hear me talk about how God's blessed my family, and just the real presence that God has had in our lives. And so my mom had been unemployed for close to 10 years, 11 years, something like that. She goes to work. This is when they start building. It was A.E. Staley then, but she went and worked over there as a secretary when the construction process started. And she had been working for 2 weeks. And at this time, when they moved back to Loudoun, Dad was a carpenter. He was building some apartments and doing things like that. And Mom picked up insurance. We'd never had it. I was born on the MasterCard. Mom said that when I was born, she swiped a credit card and they made payments on me.
Yeah.
But she went to work. She'd been working for 2 weeks. My dad was diagnosed with diabetes. And we had had family coverage for 2 weeks. And he was 35 years old and diagnosed with diabetes. And that was the good Lord watching over, because we would have never gotten out of all kinds of government assistance.
Now, he's an insulin-dependent diabetic, isn't he?
Yes, I think, is that type 1?
Probably so.
Yeah.
So it's like the juvenile diabetes, except that he was diagnosed at 35.
Yeah.
He was building apartments back behind the post office, and his boss told him, he said, "Clyde, you need to go to the house." Dad said, "Okay." He wasn't one to leave work early, but he said, "Okay." He said, "I went to get in the truck, and I missed the door handle." He said, "So I made a lap." He said, "I caught it the second time." So he gets in the truck and drives home, passes out on the couch. Mom has a feeling. She said, and Mom has these occasionally. You need to go to the house. She's at work. She goes home, finds him passed out on the couch. She calls my papa Floyd, her daddy. They take him up to Baptist Hospital. The nurse tells them, "Mr. Amburn, the good Lord wasn't in need of a carpenter today because you were available. Your blood sugar was 1,200.
Good.
He had driven home from work
At a 1,200.
1,200.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody at a 12.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Phew.
And Mom came home and found him on the couch. If she hadn't left work,
Hey, he'd been dead, man.
he would have been a dead man.
Ooh.
And so, God has always taken care of our family and blessed us that way. And that's the synopsis of that.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting aside that'll really trigger something for you. So I'll never forget. So I went to Loudon Elementary, which is where the central office is now, near the health department.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Because I rode bus 5, and those of us that were beyond the split went to town. Bus 5 would come down, and then they would take a left and go up to Steaky.
Okay.
And then they would come back and pick us
Who was
up.
the driver of Bus 5?
Well, we had Ed, and we had Dobie, and we had
I was
Brenda.
going to say Franks.
Yeah, Dobie Franks
Wow.
and Brenda. But I will never forget riding that bus, and we looked off at Highway 72, and somebody said, "That's the new road. You'll be able to go all the way to town without passing the hospital." Because we had no idea.
Like
And that would have been in the 80s.
That was probably 81 or 82. And then I went to Loudon Elementary for first grade at the new school when they opened it up.
Okay. At where it's at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That is neat.
Mm-hmm.
So now, in jumping a little bit forward there,
Sure.
when I remember you telling this in class, you went to Loudon High School, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and graduated. And then after Loudon High School, what did you do?
I went to the University of Tennessee, and so I'll back it just a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
So my freshman year in high school, I had decided I had gotten involved in 4-H and FFA, and so I thought I'm going to study ag. That's what I want to do. I don't know what, but I want to study ag. I want to do something in ag, and that was always leaning towards the animal side of it, the production agriculture, beef, swine. Those things. I didn't care about the plants and animals. I was not nearly as trained in the mechanics side of it, the welding. I had to learn that later on. But I always liked the animal science side of it, and I thought, I want to do something in ag. My senior year, we were at State FFA convention, and I felt just as strong a calling as any preacher that fills the pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the state officers coming across the stage and saying, this is my farewell address. I'm no longer a state officer. I just want to thank Mr. Such and Such or Miss Such and Such, my advisor. They really made a difference in my life. And it was a very real moment where I felt God say, I want you to teach. Ag. We've been talking ag this whole time. I want you to teach. And so I never hesitated. And I went straight to UT. I said, I'm going to teach ag. And I got involved in all of the ag programs and all of those clubs and things like that. Did my student teaching, loved every second of it. Got a job teaching ag and loved every second of it. And I never was one of these people that thought, man, I wish I'd have done something else. I really, I felt like God said, this is what I want you to do. And then he gave me a real love for it. And so it was that way the whole time.
Yeah. Wow.
I was
That's
very
awesome.
fortunate that way.
Now, how long did you teach at Loudon?
I taught at Loudon.
Did you start at Loudon teaching?
No, sir.
Okay.
No. So I graduated UT in December of 1999, and there are no teaching positions at that point.
Mm-hmm.
My advisor told me, he said, hey, there's a spot in Wynne, Arkansas.
That's
And
right.
he said, if you're interested, you can go out there and apply. But he said, and so when I went out there,
Oh, so you went? Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
he drove that old red Chevrolet out there and back. I remember the story. I remember the
Yeah.
story.
But I went out there and I interviewed and wound up meeting just one of the most influential men I'd ever known. He was the principal of that school. But the lady that was the current ag teacher had been offered a job with the state of Arkansas in agriculture.
Mm.
And he told her, he said, if I can't find somebody that suits me, I'm going to hold you to your contract. And you won't be able to take that job. And he meant it. And that's the way he did his business. You know, you're not going to leave me in a lurch.
Mm-hmm.
I will hold you to your contract. But he was fair, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he was, I'm going to make the best decisions for these kids, and I'm not going to hire somebody just to fill a spot so that you can better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I interviewed with him, and that all went well. And I'll never forget, he and I walking around the building, and he said, Robert, he said, another aside there, my resume said Robert,
Mm-hmm.
and I was way too intimidated to tell him, you know, call me Bobby. So Wynne, Arkansas is the only place on this globe that refers to me as Robert. Everybody in town, he'd introduce me as Robert, and I said, hey, I'm Robert. But I was way too intimidated to say, no, my name's Bobby. So anyway, he said, Robert, he said, everybody has to have their shot, and I'm giving you yours. Don't screw it up. You know, and that's how he hired me.
Huh.
And so I worked there from December until June. And he told me at the end of that year, he said, I want you to let me know. He said, I know you want to get back to East Tennessee. He said, just please let me know as soon as you know something. I said, yes, sir. That was the most miserable time of my life living out there, because now as far as ag goes, it was wonderful. As far as an animal scientist goes, it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about riding horses and things like that, but we were covered in rice fields.
Mm-hmm.
That other ag teacher told me, he said, now when the mosquitoes come, he said, don't smack them. He said, that just ticks them off. He said, you let them finish. Because it was awful.
Ooh.
But it was me and my students and their parents. Anybody that was young, anybody that was my age and had any ambition left town. And so, I mean, there was just nobody there.
Yeah.
Me, my students, and their parents.
How big of a town was that?
I don't think it was very. I mean, it's so rural.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of it was cropland.
Yeah.
You know, did you go to the farm machinery show with us?
I've been to the farm machinery show
So
in Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad and I were at the farm machinery show, and he said, son, he said, what size gate would you have to get one of these things through it? I said, Dad, I said, you remember out in Arkansas? I said, they didn't have fences. I said, they planted those beans 18 inches off the highway.
Yeah.
I said, they didn't have
You didn't have
gates.
to worry about no
Yeah.
gates. Huh?
But it was all crops. But I was so miserable and so wanted to get back to East Tennessee.
Mhm.
And so I told myself, you know, this guy's hired me. And this is something that I've learned, and you guys being in management of your own businesses and things, and I know you guys well, so I know that you feel the same way as I do about a certain type of loyalty to the guy that's hired you,
Mhm.
you know.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I told myself, if I can't get a job by the end of June, I'm staying. I'm not going to have him looking for an ag teacher in July.
Yeah.
And so it was getting close, and I was getting miserable, but I was not going to leave.
Mhm.
I owed him that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I wish more people still felt that
Oh,
way.
yeah. That's a lot of people just let that stuff go. Now.
Yeah, but I
Now
felt
all
like
that's
I owed
gone.
him that.
Yeah.
And so right at the end of June, I found out that they were hiring in Washington County, which is, you know, Johnson City.
Okay.
And so I called them and said, you know, I'd like to set up an interview. And she said, just be prepared. She said, if Mr. Rowland likes you, he's liable to offer you a job on the spot. I said, yes, ma'am. So I set it up for as soon as I possibly could. I wasn't going to let somebody interview in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I drove overnight.
For the next day?
Yes, I drove overnight. So that I could be there. I said, you got anything open tomorrow? She said, he's got a spot at noon or 1 o'clock. And so I knew it was going to be, the interview was going really well. And he said, Mr. Amburn, this is my 28th year. So that was year 2. So it tells you how long ago this was. This was in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Mr. Amburn, he said, I need a cigarette. This is the director of schools I'm meeting with. This is not a principal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interviewing with the director of schools. He said, I need a cigarette. And so we go out onto the front steps of the Washington County Board of Education. I put a pinch of skull in. He gets a cigarette. We finish our interview. He said, do you want this job? And I said, I'd jump all over it. And he said, well, get to jumping. The job's yours. And so
Wow. Okay. That's
I
awesome.
had an opportunity about that same time. I'd interviewed with Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
As Monterey was in Loudon,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a degree in agriculture, and so they were needing a position filled. And so I decided I would rather teach agriculture in Washington County
Wow.
than raise mushrooms in Loudon.
3
Because
hours from home. Yeah.
I never was the plant guy.
Yeah.
And so I thought,
Right.
at least I'm in East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I was sophomore in college, they shut the ag program down at Loudon High School.
Mm.
And so I'd always had a goal of I want to reinstate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finished up,
I do believe, not to interrupt you, but I believe you're leading into the story that I heard you tell about how ag was something that was dying, and that you wouldn't accept it. I remember vaguely of I'm hoping that's where we're going. Yeah.
well, we'll see. I'm trying to remember that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they called and said, hey, we're going to reinstate the program. Would you like to come down and interview?
Mm-hmm.
And so I came down, I interviewed, and they brought John Harrison in on the interview because they didn't know what ag was.
Mm-hmm.
John was one of the few people in the community that had experience taking ag in high school, taking ag in college, and so they sat him in on the interview. They had Chad Udy's mother, because she was on the school board at that time. Then I had, I think, the deputy director of schools.
I figured they brought Randy Davis in there.
No,
He was a school teacher
It
and
was John Harrison.
Yeah.
And
And a farmer.
Roger Eichelberger was the principal. And Sherry may have been the assistant. She may have been in the interview as well. But I did something in that interview. Look, hindsight being 2020, I shouldn't have done. It didn't kill me though. So, but it was one of those things where you feel I was almost offended.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, Mr. E, did you all know Mr. Eichelberger?
I did not.
Mr. E looked at my resume and he said, Bobby, at this time I'm like, my name's Bobby.
Yeah.
So he said, Bobby, he said, this is your 3rd job in 3 years. I'd been at Wynn High School. I'd been at Daniel Boone High School. Now I'm at Loudon.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what's your problem? And I said, this is the job that I want.
Mm-hmm.
I said, this is the only job that I would leave Daniel Boone High School for.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you all don't hire me, I'll go back there and they will love me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what's to say that I don't quit my job and come down here and you don't jerk the program out from under me like you did the last guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And as soon as that came out of my mouth, I thought, I probably shouldn't have said that. But I was very loyal to my agriculture teacher,
Mm-hmm.
good guy, and taught me a lot. And I felt like, that offended me a little bit.
Absolutely.
We wound up having a wonderful relationship. Roger Eichelberger was wonderful to work for. John Harrison was very supportive in everything that we did. I mean, it was what needed to happen.
Right. Yeah. I did not know that's exactly how it went.
But I was young and needed to have my own time tamed a little bit.
Well, sometimes you got to speak what you think,
Right.
though, too. I mean,
That might have helped you.
yeah, absolutely. That's where this is home.
Right.
This is where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is it.
So how long was you teaching at Loudon there?
So I taught.
What year was that?
That was your initial question. So I came 2001.
2001.
So here's something interesting. So Roger hires me in June. And I told him, I said, Mr. E, I said, just so that you know, I said, I've scheduled a mission trip. I'm going to Nairobi, Kenya for 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks that I'm supposed to be employed by Loudoun County Schools. Because I was a 12-month employee, so I was expected to start in July.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I totally understand. Go to Kenya. Have a good time. We get off the plane in Kenya, as we're driving, we stayed at African Nazarene University. As we're driving through there, the guy driving the bus said, right there is the Kenyan embassy, the American embassy in Kenya. He said, Al Qaeda blew that up. And we all said, who? This was in July of 2001. Who? He said, Al Qaeda. And we're like, whatever.
Yeah. Whoever that is.
Yeah. And so September 2001, I'm sitting down in the basement. I was in Mr. Phillips's room. Did y'all have Mr. Phillips? I'm trying to think who taught wood shop.
About Ken?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's my uncle.
That's right. So I was in, his room. That's when I first came to Loudon High School. Mr. Fritz and everybody else was still at the vocational school for 1 year.
Okay.
So
the
I had,
vocational building wasn't built yet.
correct. I was floating. And so a couple times a day I was in Kent's room. And then a couple times I think I had to teach one in the library and teach one somewhere else. I mean, I didn't have a shop. I didn't have any tools. We didn't have anything.
Yeah.
We wound up building a little lean-to greenhouse just to have something to do. But we didn't have anything. But I was down there on my planning period when those planes hit. And that's so. You said when was that? It was 2001.
Yeah.
Is when I started at Loudon High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes it easy to remember.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was in 6th grade.
M.A. or Sally Ritchie.
7th grade.
Yeah, Sally Ritchie's the class I was in. She was 6th grade, wasn't
It was
she?
sixth.
Yeah.
I was
Sally-
in 6th grade, so
Sally was
you would have had to
sixth.
be
Yeah,
in 6th
Sally
grade.
was in 6th
I
grade.
think I had her for 7th. I knew I had Mary Ann for.
I know exactly
6th.
what room I was in and everything. It was pretty wild.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Philly boy, so I can't
Sure.
relate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's easy to remember. I think everybody remembers
Sure.
where they were the moment that happened. I don't think
It's wild to me to think that there's people even
that don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
I know,
that you
it's
that you
crazy.
guys have in school and stuff. That's like
that
oh,
you
yeah,
be teaching that too.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
So-
Is that in the curriculum nowadays?
I'm sure it is, but I don't know if you guys have done this math either. But this is my 28th year. 28 years ago, I taught 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
I have former students that are 45 and 46 years old now.
Yeah.
Grandparents themselves.
Golly, that is crazy. Wow.
Yeah. It's that ain't what gets it for me. Craig sent me a picture the other day of Ethan.
Oh, sure.
Graduated, gone, or whatever.
Right.
I was picking him up at Eaton's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's
Well-
insane.
Yeah, my little girl's driving me around.
Yeah. It's crazy. Time flies.
Mm-hmm. But so agriculture has always been big for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much Craig's told you about our grandfather, but my granddad was the manager for the bacon farm. And Colonel Bacon owned everything in Loudon. Bacon hosiery mill, bacon creamery, bacon hospital.
And that was your who?
Well, my grandfather managed his farm.
Okay.
Do you know where Ace Hardware is in the village?
Mm-hmm.
So right behind it, there's a little island that popped up. You'll see it the next time you go.
Mm-hmm.
But right out in the middle of the lake, there's a little island that pops up right behind Ace Hardware. And that's where Colonel Bacon's house stood. And so my granddaddy Amburn managed that farm that basically went from there all the way down to Maple Hill.
Wow. Golly.
So
That's a trip.
he never owned his own place because he wouldn't go into debt. I had a guy tell me once, he said, we tried to get your grandfather to take out a loan to buy his own place. He said he was the kind of farmer that could have made it and paid for it, but he just would not go into debt. So Granddaddy always worked for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Colonel Bacon didn't have any children. And I think this is correct, but it's not way off. I think his wife had a niece, and she wound up connected with the Moorfields and everybody else. But the niece was married, and so they wound up basically inheriting the bulk of the estate. Was this niece and her husband? He had played football for UT, and so when TVA came in and said, we're going to condemn all this, my grandfather was 60-something. I think he was in his 60s. He'd always worked for someone else, didn't have his own place, didn't have anything. He had money that was put up, but he'd always lived on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the gentleman that was over everything gave Granddaddy a tractor. My dad still has that 2020 John Deere that's out in the barn. He gave him the tractor. Granddaddy bought a piece of property out on Bishop Road, right next to Brian Curtis's house.
Okay. Yeah.
Brian Curtis actually bought property from Granddaddy to build that house. And then the gentleman sent him a crew out there to build him a house. So Granddaddy would have somewhere to go when the farm went under.
Yeah. Wow.
But, you know, agriculture's always meant a lot to our family. And so that was where I really got my first taste of it. But Granddaddy was like most of the guys around here were really jaded
Oh yeah,
by the village.
absolutely, yeah.
The way that they
So
stole
so
all
it
that.
went all the way from there to Maple Hill.
they had the upper farm and a lower farm.
Wow, that's a good travel.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah,
That's huge.
it was a lot.
It's a bunch.
Yeah, it was a lot, and they managed. You know, they managed all kinds of. You know. So I asked my dad. We bought mom and dad these books. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but you need to do this. It's called like the story of my life. You sit down with your parents and you interview them, kind of like you all are. And so it says like, who was your first grade teacher, those type of things. And so one of the things I asked my dad was, I said, what's one of the most vivid memories you have from when you were a certain age, like 10 or whatever? He said, now I do remember. He said, I was in my grandmother's house and she said, look down there, your granddaddy's on fire. And he said, I looked down there and it was a gas tractor and something happened, but I mean, he was rolling. And dad said, she told me to run up to the house and get somebody to come down here and get him, take him to the hospital. You know, and at 10 years old, dad sees his grandfather just flopping in a hayfield
on fire.
And he's, you know, kicking his shoes off and running through these pastures to get somebody else with a car that can come down here and get him, take him to the hospital. I said, I guess that would be one of the most vivid memories.
That would be vivid for sure.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't forget that.
Yeah.
You've seen your grandfather catch on fire. So how long did you teach at Loudon?
I taught at Loudon for approximately 12 years.
And then we were long gone.
Been 4 or 5 years after we left.
We were long gone, and what are you doing now?
2012, 2013-ish. I think it's 12. I went into administration at the building level.
I thought that was so cool when you went into that.
Well, I appreciate
I
that.
thought that was awesome.
You know, I sat down with the director of schools and was talking to him, and he said, Mr. Amburn, he said, I thought you liked teaching shop. He said, why do you want to pursue administration? And I said, I love teaching shop. I said, there's nothing in this world I love more than teaching shop, and I'm not trying to escape my classroom. I said, I want my classroom to be the entire building.
Because you had a good classroom too. That was nice
I
over
appreciate
there.
it.
What they
Yeah, it was
had
nice.
for you.
Yeah.
You know. And
I told him, I said, what I do works on 25 kids at a time, and I'm confident that it will work on an entire building, the way that I do and the way that I manage and the
wow.
way that I do these things.
I like that.
I said, furthermore, I said, it's tough to inherit 15 and 16-year-old kids that have made decisions that can always potentially negatively impact their life, and you're inheriting them as freshmen. You know, I said, I'd like to have a shot at them when they're 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not trying to escape that. I said, I'm trying to catch it early if I can. And
So that's your whole goal, basically.
Sure.
Wow.
And so that's all. So I still try to do my job the same way I did when I was teaching you all, which is get out, get around them, get to know them, invest in them. You know, definitely draw that line between, you know, being a friend and being authority. But be fair and honest. And
see, in my mind, I've always just thought like, okay, yeah, you're a teacher. Now you want to be a little bit more and a little bit more for what I would assume just the worldly thoughts of a little more money, a little more this, a little more power, a little more that.
I initially took a cut in pay.
Yeah. So wow.
And I told him
that's
that
some powerful stuff.
I told him that in my interview.
That's
I
some
said I'm going
powerful
from
stuff.
at that time I was going from a 12-month employee down to an 11-month employee. I said I'm losing $50 a month
Right. Yeah.
applying for this job. But I said it's not about the money. I said it's about the opportunity to make an impact.
Yeah.
You know. So I'm trying to teach adults now. You know, this is how we do. This is how we instruct. This is how we interact with kids.
Yeah.
This is how we do these things.
Yeah.
And so I'm still teaching. And that's what I had a little girl once that said or you guys today said he was my teacher. You know, that's the greatest thing they could ever call me, other than a good dad. You know,
Right.
is
Yeah.
he was my teacher.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope that the kids at North Middle School think too.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's awesome. I just never have looked at it like that.
Now,
where you try to-
what are you doing at North Middle?
Well, I'm the hired jerk. Not really, but I'm the assistant principal.
Assistant. Okay. That's
But
what-
I do a lot of the discipline,
Yeah.
and then I do work with a lot of the facility management. And then we share responsibilities with different types of students. I manage our 504 caseloads, and then I share the instructional load with observations and teacher observations and things like that.
So do you get more out of what you're doing now than you did at the high school level teaching shop class?
I get different.
It's
I love
different.
it. I love it different. That's what somebody said. Do you like what you do? And I said, I love it. They said, you like it more than you did before? And I said, no, I just love it different.
Different.
It's my day. So I try my very best to get to North Middle School no later than 6:30, because you don't have enough time today to finish yesterday's and do today's. So I always want to start my day with all my things done.
Fresh. Yeah.
I also can't do my job effectively from my office. So once I walk out of my office at 7:15 to start bus duty, I try my best not to go back in there if I can help it. You know, I like to be out the building. I want to be in classrooms. I want to be with these kids. I want to do those things. But I mean, my typical day starts, you know, at 7:15 we unlock the doors, kids start coming in. For the last 12 years, I've been in charge of finding substitute teachers and managing that part of the day, which is a challenge, you know, trying to make sure that your classes are all outfitted by 8.
How many teachers are in
8:05.
that school between all the classes?
We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 to 50 teachers, but we have almost 80 staff total.
I guess classrooms is what I was meaning. But how many
So we're 5th grade,
classrooms?
7th. We have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th,
Yeah.
and we have, you know.
So is that considered middle now? 5th?
5th grade is not.
Okay.
So if your kids came to North Middle School in the 5th grade, they can participate in cross country, because that is not a TMSAA sport. 6th grade they can do basketball, football, everything else, because 6, 7, and 8 is middle school.
Okay.
But the 5th graders can do cross country.
Okay.
But we have, to answer your question, Bo, it fluctuates, and I'm trying to do the math. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 32 classes, something like that.
Yeah. So there's probably never a time there's not a substitute needed, I'd say.
Oh, I'm generally finding about 6 or 7 a day.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so that's not the day starts. You know, I also do all of our maintenance requests. You know, teachers will say whether it's
Lights out.
I've got a flickering bulb, I don't go change. I mean, I do sometimes, but we have people to do that. But I have to fill out the work orders and do those things and make sure that all that gets choreographed. You know, she gets her planning period here. Let's see if we can do it then. Those type of things.
Wow.
I handle attendance, which is its own difficult thing, and then and the discipline thing. And so we are a trauma-informed school.
What does that mean?
What that means is, hypothetically, let's just put you in that situation. Let's say hypothetically that both your parents are deceased and you're being raised by your grandparents.
Okay.
What I tell parents all the time is that, you know, so I try to invest in these kids. I try to learn who they are. It doesn't change the consequences. You know, you're still not allowed to flip your teacher off.
Right.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But it certainly changes the conversation that we have. You know, Matthew here that lives in Avalon with his parents, you know, me and you, we're about to have come to Jesus meeting.
Right. Yep.
You're getting your consequence, but I also, and this is something that, I don't know if I told you this the other day, Matthew. or not.
Sympathize with them a little more.
Well,
and whatnot.
It's never personal. They're mad at their circumstances. They're mad because Dad was out drunk all night. They're mad because mom didn't come home. They're mad because everybody in the class has got new shoes except them. They're mad because they didn't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
And so that conversation is more of a, I hate it, what you're going through, but it's not our fault, and you can't point it towards us. When you come into this building, you've got to let us help you.
Right.
You're going to get some consequences because you're not allowed to treat your teacher that way.
So you're
In the meantime, I'm also going to have a guidance counselor talk to you because I think you're not normally this way, but you've had a pretty tough 3 days in a row here. I don't know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
When you're done with her, you're going to end school.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what trauma informed kind of looks like. Is we're trying to solve the problem. Good discipline.
So you're trying to build a relationship to where if they get to this point in their life, they can come to you and talk things out.
Good discipline.
Instead of flipping the teacher off or getting mad and getting in a fight or whatever. And
I've told them plenty of times. I said, you can come into my office, you can shut the doors, and you can scream and cuss and say whatever you want to, and you're going to be fine. I'll listen to it. You're not going to do it to my teachers.
Right.
I said, I know you have bad days. Come in here before you lose your mind. Come in here and shut the doors. You can holler at me all you want. I'll just sit here and listen to you.
Right.
I won't take it personal. But good discipline changes behavior. And so that's why all this stuff that you've gone through in your life, you don't need one. I mean, me belittling you isn't going to solve anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not going. I'm not trying to just throw out consequences. I'm trying to cure behavior
You're
issues.
like Mr. Clark. Lean on me.
Well, we're just trying to what's causing it.
Yeah.
Is it because you're spoiled and you get everything that you want, or is it because you're mad at the world?
Yeah.
And so you have to keep those things in mind when you're handling.
You have to draw a line between the two and figure them out.
Well, and you need to get that ahead instead of waiting till high school.
Well, you guys both do mechanics. I mean, when you're diagnosing that problem, you don't do the same thing to every rattle.
Yeah. No, right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You got to find out what's causing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah, that's good. I just never seen it like that. So I guess since it sounds like you do a lot, I'm just curious, what does the principal do?
So, a lot.
Okay.
So what I tell people often is that there's 2 assistant principals and a principal. I tell them, I said, my job is to handle the 45-minute issues. Her job is to handle the 5-minute issues. Yes, no, approved. Those. I mean, she gets hundreds of those things a day. She doesn't have 45 minutes at a spot to sit down with this kid and work with him, and then to call that parent back and to call this parent back and do those things. And so, she's keeping everything up in the air, and we're trying to handle those time sponges.
Okay. Yeah.
We do a lot of things, but I mean, I work with a great team.
Yeah.
I work with a wonderful team. We all have different strengths, and I've never had so much fun working this hard in my entire life.
Right. Yeah.
I just thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah. I just think about going back to like Sticky, where Miss Boone would wear the kids out in front of us, or because if you knew nobody, I guess even when we were in high school, if you went to the principal's office, I never even heard about going to the assistant principal's office.
We were still talking about Miss Boone in high school.
Yeah.
About getting those paddles.
So one of the things I try to do, if you brought your kids tomorrow and said, hey, I'm going to bring these kids to North Middle, I take you into my office and I tell those kids, I said, I want your first experience in here to be positive, so that you know that this is a place you can come. I don't want you to be terrified to come in here.
No, absolutely.
I said, if you've made a mistake, we're going to talk about it. But I said, this is a place you get questions answered. This is not a place where you just get chewed on. And so, I mean, because they're still kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. At the end of the day, they're kids.
Yeah.
They're kids in a weird time of their life too.
But he said it perfect the other day.
Yeah.
When you come to my store.
Yeah.
How did you say that?
Well,
now, it's not the kid's fault.
So the Coke man came in. He was delivering a Coke machine. And he said, I don't envy you. I said, what do you mean?
I kind of said the same thing.
He said,
I ain't got the patience.
Kids aren't the same as they were when I was in school. He said, I couldn't do this job. I said, that's where I disagree with you. I said, they're exactly the same. He said, what do you mean? I said, since the beginning of time, kids have entered this world knowing nothing. And I said, it's the responsibility of the adults to train them up. I said, the adults have changed, not the kids.
Right.
I said, they know nothing when they got here. I said, but the adults that were in charge of getting them to this point
Yeah, the difference is the
have
raising.
let them down.
Yeah,
Yeah, the difference is the raising.
The kids are still wonderful.
Yeah,
It's not their fault.
yeah.
They're children.
I'd never even looked at it like that. I hadn't. Never even thought about it. I mean,
We've said it a million times.
Yeah,
It's
but
how
you-
these kids are being raised.
yeah, absolutely.
With,
but
people
but you just
raising
don't
them,
think
whatever.
about it. Just my immediate thoughts like, boy, I'd hate to be a teacher to, or this or that, because I ain't got the patience. It's not their fault.
Agreed.
It's not their fault.
So my dad,
Well, it's not about that for me. For me, it's more so of I couldn't do what Bob does because I can't do it the way I'll do it.
the way you want to do it, or how,
I can't do it the way I can't treat those kids the way I do my kids.
no,
This is the way I do it, so I'd have to come up with a totally new way and figure everything out for them, which
I could see that. Too,
that's why I
absolutely.
say I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If it was, Bo, here's 150 kids. I want you to make sure they're all good. Give them to me. I have no restrictions, no nothing.
Right.
They can stay with me for a year. That would be something that if I took that on, I would, with those kind of
Yeah.
not having any restrictions on it, I could handle it.
Yeah.
But you got to do it this way, and this way, and achieve this. I'm like, how am I going to do that? It
you're
ain't
talking
my
about
way.
the way that we were raised. I worked construction with Dad all the way through high school and college. And I got up he woke me up one morning. He said, time to go to work. I said, Dad, I don't feel good. He said, well, I hate that, son. He said, going back to bed. He said, I hope you get to feeling better. I said, yeah, thank you. So I went back to bed. The next morning I get up, I'm putting my boots on. He said, what are you doing? I said, I was getting ready to go to work. He said, son, we were pouring concrete yesterday and you laid out on me. He said, if you won't work when I need you, you certainly won't work when I don't need you. And I don't need you anymore. You're fired.
Whew.
And then he went on into work. He was the superintendent building, at this point, he's building schools in Knoxville. So he has 60, 70 subcontractors. And he pulls into work and they're all like, where's Bob at? He said, he laid out on me yesterday and I fired him. And you don't think that made a believer out of the rest of them too.
Oh, yeah.
But I was
yeah.
19 years old, and that was the last day that I didn't go to work because I didn't want to. And I tell that story with so much pride
Yeah.
because it made me who I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I called him one day. I was on the side of Highway 72. I said, Dad, I need some help. He said, what is it? And I said, I'm out of gas. He said, I'm driving that Chevelle. He said, I gave you $20 to put in it. And I said, I didn't have time. He said, you got all the time in the world now, don't you? He said, you're not in that big of a hurry anymore. He said, son, the only thing I could have done was to drove down there and put it in there for you myself. He said, you just sit there and wait. He said, I'll be there when I get there. He left me out there for 45 minutes to an hour, and I was 5 minutes from the house.
Oh.
Yeah.
He said, you're not in that big of a hurry anymore, are you?
No,
But
you'd-
that's...
But
that was
you
a-
didn't
but
do that
that's
again
but that's
either,
his Chevelle too, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
but
that's
I
y'all's Chevelle.
But I love that, telling these stories because it
absolutely,
made
yeah.
me who I am.
If you'd been driving that old truck, he wouldn't have came.
No.
No, just because he's in that Chevelle's the only reason.
No, I just was thinking that, because making a believer out of you.
Sure.
Back when you were in school and I was in school, and
Yeah.
when that principal come in, if they had to get the principal involved to handle that 2-minute butt whooping that you got, I guarantee you, like Bill Lee bringing tobacco in, ain't nobody bringing tobacco in again for at least 6-8 months. You know
So,
what I mean? It ain't, but nobody gonna be bringing tobacco in.
So you come into my office, and this is the best part of the discipline. Matthew, let's call you Mama. You're going to tell her what you called that little girl at lunch. Mr. Amburn, can I paraphrase that? And I said, you wouldn't be in here if you'd paraphrased. You're going to tell her exactly what you said. So I call you Mama. I said, hey, I've got Matthew in here with me. I said, I'm going to let him tell you why he's in here. And then you have to get on there and tell her you called her some little 4-letter word or you've popped somebody between the legs or whatever.
That's probably rough for them getting
So-
to paddling.
Well, it helps because sometimes parents find it difficult to believe that their child did some of the things
So, yeah.
that they've received discipline for. So it makes it a lot more.
That's a good way to deal with
It
it.
makes
It
it
is.
it
It's
makes
an
it a
awesome-
lot.
It's an awesome way.
It makes it a lot more
Because
Believable.
Yes, when the
yeah.
child
Damn.
says,
Uh-huh.
this is what I've done.
yeah,
And so then the parent doesn't, and so the next thing to that is ask the child, is there anything else that I need to know? I said, before we talk about discipline. I said, because what I don't want is for your mom to call me back tomorrow and say, well, he came home and said this has happened too. I said, we're not going to revisit this tomorrow. We're going to tie a bow on it today. So is there anything else that we need to talk about? Nope. I said, fine.
we're done.
And so that helps me because when I first started, you'd spend an hour on it today and 2 hours tomorrow having to rehash because they went home and told a different version of it. And so it really makes it, that's the worst part for the kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's rough. I ain't no way I'd want to call my. I'd rather take a paddling as
Well, yeah.
call my mama
you'd
and tell
say,
them
Bo
what
got a
I-
paddling today, but hey, what happened? I handled it. I paddled him. It's over.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
When you got
you got to tell your mom and dad.
I mean, I was getting a whipping anyway if I got a paddling when I got home too, probably. So it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good way to deal with it. We had Matt's cousin on, and he's been in education and stuff for a long time. But he said that the reason he got out of your mainstream education at school level is the parents.
the parents. Yeah.
He said
It was
these are
really
the
hard.
parents.
It wasn't the kids, it was the parents,
But he said we'd have kids on videos doing stuff, and the parents would walk in and say, "No, it didn't happen."
We're blessed in our end of the county. We, there.
Which he wasn't a higher end school too.
Well, and it wasn't here. either.
We have an occasional issue,
city
but
schools.
we have a very supportive community and stakeholders, and the parents are very supportive of what we do.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they know the children that they send to our school,
yeah.
and there's not a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
But the other piece to that conversation is I always try to let them know, just like I told you all a second ago, that they're still kids. This is not a life sentence. This is not a terminal disease. This is a mistake.
Yep. It's
My
a
daughter
learn.
came in one day. Clara was like 3rd or 4th grade. She walks over from Eaton Elementary. She comes into my office, and she stepped back out. She said, "Dad, there's a bad kid in there." I said, "Clara, there's not a bad kid in this building." I said, "They're all children. They make mistakes." And so that's the conversation I try to have with these parents too, is, I'm not judging your child.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to correct an unexcusable behavior or inappropriate behavior.
Absolutely.
I said, they're still I made the same mistakes. I'm not
Absolutely.
sitting here on my high horse trying to be a
saying
saint.
that you're that you're better, that you've done
and your
better.
kid is not an awful person.
Yeah.
He's a kid. We work together as a team to try to correct these things so that he'll wind up an adult that can make good decisions.
Yep, function. Absolutely.
Yeah, because so many times the parents think you have it out for their children, and that's just not the case.
No.
And so you have to build that relationship so that they know that you're trying to build them up all the way around.
Yeah. That's some good stuff. I had never thought about that. Calling your mama and telling you said a 4-letter word. Woo,
So
or
let
your
me tell you-
dad.
let me tell you something else. The middle school's different now. Like the 7th graders are talking chemistry now, and the 8th graders are doing Shakespeare. I mean, it's different from when we went to school. But I sat some kids down one day last year because they were doing some Shakespeare, and I told them, I said, I absolutely hated Shakespeare. I did not like ELA, period. But I did not like Shakespeare. I thought it was no value. When I asked the teacher, when am I ever going to use this again, they never had an answer. But I said, I've realized, and both of you all are about to realize, how often you use that. I said, when we're trying to go through, whether it was Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet or whatever, you're trying to interpret these things and discern, what did he mean by this and that. I said, those are the skills I use every day. Whether I'm interviewing somebody or I'm talking to a student, I'm trying to, in this conversation, I'm trying to interpret. And I thought, man, this is what she was trying to teach me when I was learning Shakespeare.
I had never thought of
Was
it
how
like
to
that either. Though.
how to take this story
How
and
to
figure out
pull it apart.
what's really been
Yeah,
said.
what pull it apart.
That's like I said, trying to talk to this kid that's struggling and find out, that Dad got arrested over the weekend. Okay, now here's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I said, it's those same skills that they're teaching in Shakespeare. You know, I
It's the
use
same
it-
thing preacher teaches you too. That's how you
Sure.
got to interpret the Bible.
Yeah. So I
it's,
use
it's
that.
all worded like that.
Ironically enough, I use those skills probably as much as I do anything.
Hmm.
And I thought they were worthless.
That's yeah. I kind of thought the same thing too. I ain't gonna lie. But
Honestly, I don't know if I was taught anything about this stuff. I can't remember. I don't know. I mean.
Oh, I remember the stories. I mean, I do.
School's a blur for me. Was you had Bob? You had Bob in school too?
1 year. I had him 1
Yeah.
year.
You
Yeah.
guys both wound up going the Housley track.
But we
I
went.
was
we went.
Fritz.
Yeah,
Fritz.
yeah,
I was Fritz. I never had
I
1
was-
year at Housley.
I had one.
That's the ironic
I had
side of it.
1 year, but then it was mechanics.
So let me tell you something really interesting. So I've got a table set up in my office. I've got my FFA jacket above it. Then I've got a birdhouse that we built. And I've got my steps and I've got my hammer. So were you in there with Curtis?
Ben?
Nope. Curtis Jones. He came in and helped teach. He was. You
I
were not.
don't think so.
So one of the last years I was there, Curtis Jones came in. He was a retired machinist from Oak Ridge, and he started coming in and volunteering and helping teach. And so I told Fritz, I had first block plan. I said, I want to take machine shop. I said, when I was in high school, it was at the vocational school. And the guidance counselor, when I said I want to go to the vocational school, the guidance counselor said, you're going to college. You don't need to be with those kids. Which always burnt me up too, especially once I started teaching. But that's, those kids, you need to stay over here.
Yeah.
And so I told Fritz, I said, I never got to take machine shop. So first block, one semester, I sat on the front row. I was just Bobby. Second block, Mr. Amburn.
yeah.
But first block, I sat in there and I made my steps. I made my hammer. I did all of those things. And it was,
Baseball bats?
oh yeah. And so I've got them all in my office.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times that these parents came in to my office, name on their shirt, company name on the hat, their kids gotten in trouble. They're mad at me. The school's trying to railroad them the same way they railroaded me. And if I can get them calmed down enough, they'll look over there and see that hammer. Did you make that in Fritz's class? I said, I sure did. Once they realized that I was a shop teacher and that I used a Bridgeport and that I'm not afraid to get my hands greasy, the whole conversation changes. Because their shop teachers care. That you guys, you think back.
Oh yeah.
Your shop teachers were the ones that really cared about you. They looked at me. All of a sudden, I'm no longer wearing a necktie. I'm wearing a pair of Dickies.
Yeah,
They look at me totally different. The whole conversation shifts when they
Changes.
realize that I was running a machine. I was in the machine shop a little bit, teaching kids how to weld and things like that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm Fritz.
Yeah.
They're not looking at me as somebody that mistreated them at school, like their math teacher or their English teacher. All of a sudden, I'm Fritz.
Yep. Yep.
I think kids accept that better at a vocational teaching level like that because you're teaching us to be like you. Those other teachers ain't teaching you. They're teaching a lecture on something that they don't do. They're a teacher.
It's getting better all the way around. I'll
Yeah.
say that. It is. Loudoun County Schools is everything that I'm talking about is like when I'm talking about these parents and things. It's because of a lot of those parents are justified in their feelings.
Yep.
I've got things in my educational background where I was mistreated. There's a lot of us that do. That's changing, and so it's not that way anymore in my experience. And so I want to make sure that as people are listening to this, that they hear me say that I'm talking about people that experienced things 15,
Negative.
20
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Loudoun High School's under, and it's not anything reflection of the old leadership, but it's under new leadership. And one of their assistant principals came from our school, and she is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's Jennifer Stewart. You probably had her at Philadelphia.
Wow.
She taught at Philadelphia for years. Jennifer Lyles.
She would have probably not been there when
She
I was
knew Matt
there.
Chapman.
I didn't have those special classes Matt was in.
So anyway, they've got she's really understand. That's what I used to tell people.
Her name was a Lyle?
She was from Lenore City. Her maiden name was Lyles, but she's Jennifer Stewart.
Oh, Lyles. She must have came in after I was gone.
but she's, she really understands that community, but she's also very, very, very strong academically, which is just such an amazing balance to see. So she really can get the most out of these students, and she understands where they're coming from and what their struggles are.
Yeah.
And so education, especially in Loudoun County, has truly changed a lot.
That's good.
Since, and it's not because I'm in administration, but since I moved into administration, I've been able to see a lot of shifts.
I'm sure, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're seeing it from a different
Sure.
viewpoint, and now at that point.
Sure.
So, not just from a.
It's awesome, though.
You thought they were trying to get you, and you was a teacher, same as the students did. Now you're seeing it from the other level. It's like me. It's like being out in the shop and then going into the the office. It's like okay, they're not.
I had a boss that said you got to see that whole field of flowers, not just the one you're sitting on. It's
Yeah,
you got to
like that.
You got to look at the entire field. He said it's more than your daisy.
Yeah.
I think the only time I ever went to high school, went to the principal office in high school, is when it was in Miss Watson's class, and me and Josh Brown, we were throwing an eraser at each other. I don't know if he was mad or what, but he was throwing an eraser and I kept catching it. Well, he threw it one time and it busted the front window out at the high school.
That'll do it.
That got me in there.
Mr. Foster caught me with a water gun, got me a paddling, and he said, Mr. Foster always
Our
called
Mr. Foster?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
He always called me Little Farmer. He said, "No, Little Farmer, you got yourself a paddling that day."
Little farm.
Let me tell you a funny one on him.
Now, you did you not used to go over there and eat lunch with him all the time?
So when I first got there, so Mr. Friesel and I went to high school together.
No.
And so when I first started teaching, Marvin said, "Why don't you come over here and eat lunch with us?" And so I went into the history office one day, and Mr. Foster said, "Little Farmer," he said, "you're welcome to eat over here anytime you want." He said, "Don't bring your greasy buddies with you." But
that's great.
I told him one day, I said, "Mr. Foster," so when I asked Jennifer to marry me, she was in graduate school, and I asked her sometime, I think it was September, and I said, "Mr. Foster," I said, "I've asked Jennifer to marry me," and she said she would. He said, "Well, congratulations." He was always very blunt and to the point.
Yeah.
He said, "Congratulations." I said, "We're trying to decide." I said, "She's living in Nashville right now." I said, "So she leaves on Sunday and comes home on Thursday." I said, "So we're trying to decide if we get married in December." I said, "For the first 6 months of our marriage, she's going to live in Nashville. Or we can wait until August when she's back home." And he said, "Little Farmer," he said, "I've known you a long time, and I've known your family a long time." He said, "You're good people." He said, "You come from good people." He said, "I've met this little girl." He said, "She's very pretty. She's very smart." He said, "Let me give you some advice." He said, "Girls like that don't wait on boys like you very long." He said, "You marry her as soon as she'll have you." He said, 6 months isn't that bad. And I said, "That's a good point." I just got up and walked out of the history office, and I called Jennifer.
I called her.
And I said, "Let's just go ahead and get married in December."
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's how it wasn't even that planned. That's how me and Megan married. We were dating for a long time, years, and so we decided we were going to get married. I asked her daddy if I could, and we decided we were going to get married sometime. I don't even remember when it was, what the date was of the original date, and then we had both been working at our jobs. She was going to college still, but we were both working at our jobs 4 or 5 years, something like that, both of us. Maybe her longer at that point. But we both put in for a vacation the same week, and it was coming up in like 3 weeks.
Now, is she from Loudoun?
She went to Sequoia. She's
Okay.
from Madisonville. But we both had vacations planned, at our jobs, whatever, and it was in seriously 3 weeks away. And then we looked at each other, and I don't know who said it first, but we looked at each other one night, and we were like, "You want us to go ahead and get married in 3 weeks when we're on vacation? We'll just use the church," and and that's how we did it.
Wow.
And her aunt swore up down she's pregnant, And I'm like, no, we just don't want to wait.
So I'll tell you a funny one, or not a funny one, but I told you all initially that throughout all of this, I would talk about different times where God's really intervened and blessed us. So Jennifer and I had decided we were going to get married in December. And at that time, we were renting a piece of property from Jimmy Matlock. We were living on Jimmy's farm. And Jennifer and I were sitting in the living room, and she said, Bobby, she said, if you're okay with this, she said, I've worked at a bank all the way through college. And she said, I'll handle our finances. I said, yeah. I said, I hate writing checks, and I'm terrible at it. So yeah, take it. And so I gave her my checkbook, and of course she commenced to absolutely chewing me out. She's like, where's your money? At that time, I'd invested in quite a few cows, but I didn't have any real savings. And she said, you've been taking me out every weekend and spending hundreds of dollars. And I said, yeah, I eat a lot of bologna the rest of the week. And she said, well, you're just dumb with the way you managed your money. You don't make any money. She said, I thought you were making good money the way that you were spending it. I said, no, I was just spending it. And so she was frustrated.
I'll spend what little bit of money I had.
And so she looked at my ledger and she said, you've not been tithing. I said, I haven't. I said, I know better. I said, I was raised better than that. But I said, I haven't. And she said, you've got to start tithing. And I said, I don't have a problem with it, Jennifer. I said, I'm good with that. I said, I've just not been good with it myself. And so she wrote out a check. And she said, I just wrote a check out. And she said, you've got about $15 to make it for the next week or so. Knock on the door. I open up the door. It's Jimmy Matlock, my landlord. He said, Bob, Dean and I won't be able to make it to your wedding next weekend. He said, we're going to be out of town. I said, Jimmy, my wedding's not next weekend. I said, it's next month. He said, oh, okay. He said, well, here, take this anyway. And I opened it up, and it was my tithe check. I mean, almost to the dollar. And the ink wasn't even dried on the one that Jennifer had written. And it was just like, I guess we're starting off on the right path.
Yeah, we're doing it right. Yeah,
I mean, it was literally, right. She wrote the check.
It's amazing how some of that stuff works.
He knocks on the door and hands me almost to the dollar, the exact same amount.
Wow. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, golly, it's tight right here because of I just spent this or something, and something like that happens to me. Yeah, out of the blue. But,
I really frustrated Mr. Foster one day. I told I was raised in a Nazarene church, and he said, "What is a Nazarene?" And I said, "Well, they're Wesleyan." I said, "So they believe like a Methodist, but they worship like a Baptist." He said, "Oh, okay." But I said, "The main reason I go," I said, "they only charge 8% tithe." He said, well, that's not biblical.
Oh, that's great.
I was raised in the Nazarene church too.
I remember that now that you say it.
Yeah.
I remember that now that you say it.
Yeah.
I met my wife in a church. I tell you, that was a wild experience.
Yeah.
I was running sound at a Church of God. We were running sound.
That would be a wild experience.
We were doing a, what exactly? It was like a Hebrew dance thing that they were doing at this church. So it was kind of different for me. I ain't used to this stuff.
My mom was raised Church of God. I understand.
Yeah. So anyways, I was running the soundboard and everything, and when we get done, my job is to get my stuff and get out of there, and a few others was helping me. Well, anyways, this guy walks up to me. It was a family friend. He walks up to me and says, "Hey, I got a girl that's single. I want you to meet her." And he brings her over here. She is from Oklahoma, and she was only down for that weekend. And I'm literally usually just running, and he's like, "I just want you to see her. Just wanted to meet you." So we walked up, and we talked for 2 hours after this happened. At this church, this is how random and wild this stuff is. And then a year later, we get married. And she moves from Oklahoma. She come from Oklahoma to watch her sisters in this performance. That guy puts us together. He knew her personally. He lived in Georgia, and they were neighbors with him. And they met. And then he, at the time, he was living in Alcoa, where this church was at, and I met her that night. He just come up. He said, "You're single, she's single. Y'all should talk," and just turned around and left us. That's the way he left us. And we talked there for almost 2.5 hours, and everybody put up all the equipment and everything.
You sat around like, look, Matt over there. He ain't helping. He ain't lifting a
probably,
finger.
probably. And I was that close not to ask him for her phone number. That's how wild. I mean, that close. Like the whole time I was like, no, I don't know if I want to ask her. I ain't never asked a girl for her phone number, but you know. And there, the rest is history. Got 3 kids later, so.
Well, yeah, things work out.
It does.
Is there anything we've left out of the story of you can think of?
Well, one of the things I take a lot of pride in. I was born crippled. I was born with a clubbed foot.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. So I learned how to walk on like the Forrest Gump braces. You know, the big tall metal braces.
Mm-hmm.
But they did an article in the Shrine paper this year. But when I was a year old, Mom and Dad took me to Lexington. I was sponsored by Freeman Russell. I don't know if you've ever heard that name. And Boney Lyle. They were both Shriners in Loudon.
Mm-hmm.
And they took me to Lexington. And the Shriners fixed me. And I always try to put a plug in for them because there's no catch with the Shriners. Mom said the only thing they asked for was a phone number. She said, never asked for a credit card, never asked for a bank statement, nothing.
Right.
They said, what's a good number we can reach you at? I think we can help your child. And they took me up there, they performed surgery on me, and, you know, I have a distinct gait now. A little girl the other day asked my daughter, she said, why does your dad walk like that? You know, but
after I had forgot that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know that story, but I had forgotten. And now I can
see him walking-
picture you
I can
walking
see him
around
from Fritz's back to
but you know,
I never.
what I tell people is, I didn't know I was disabled. Mom and Dad didn't tell me.
Yeah.
They didn't. Nobody said slow down and wait for Bobby.
Yeah.
Nobody said that's too heavy. Somebody get that for him.
Yeah.
Dad just said get it.
Yeah.
And it changed my life because they never treated me like I was disabled.
Right.
So I wasn't.
How old were you when you had that surgery?
But a little over a year old, I think. I learned how to walk on plaster casts, and Mom she kept them all. And we hang on a Christmas tree. I've got little baby casts. She put a red ribbon on them. She wrote like Bobby 9 months old on the bottom of it. They hang on the Christmas tree.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Shriners are good people.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I mean, they don't ask for anything, nothing.
Yeah.
They just fix kids.
Yeah.
But if you want to be humbled,
Yeah.
you know, go up there, and it sounds like I'm on 8th grade lunch duty. You can be in the middle of that hospital, and I mean, you just hear sounds like the wheels are coming off the bus down this hall. You know, just all kinds of craziness. And you turn the corner, they're missing limbs, 3rd-degree burns all over their bodies. Yeah. And they're just just having the time of their life. But you turn the corner and you realize, boy, I don't have anything to complain about. I'm going to listen to these kids. They're just, it's an amazing place. Yeah. And so I'm always, you know, tooting their horn a little bit for the things that they do. Absolutely. We have a lot of people in this community that have been touched by them, and that was another God thing that put them in our path and took care of us that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you ever think you got it rough? Go see something like that, or the hospitals or something. And you will definitely.
Oh yeah, you understand.
Yeah, you'll definitely be humbled very, very quick. Your problems become nothing when you see this stuff.
So let me tell you the last thing. And this is my mom and my dad have given me all kinds of good things. You know, one of my favorite things from my dad was take the hardest job you've got. I told you this the other day. Give it to the laziest man you have, and he'll show you the easiest way to do it.
I love it.
My mom said real problems can't be fixed with money. She said if you can write a check for it, it's not a problem. If you can borrow it from the bank, it's not a problem. She said this world is full of people that would love to be able to write a check and fix their problems.
That's facts.
She said if you can fix it with money, it's not a problem.
That is good.
Yeah, it's good.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's 2 good ones right there.
And that's true too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good note right there to end on, boy.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that's good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. You heard that. Remember all those things. That's good advice to hear. We appreciate everybody listening. Hope y'all enjoyed it.
We'll see y'all next time. Thank you, Bobby.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you.